Well, what is happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic, I think it's the weekend. Isn't it the weekend? What day is it? I don't even know. Hey, whatever day it is, I hope you're having a great one of those. Day, whatever D5 that it is of quarantine for all of us. Yay. Big cheers on that thing. No, but seriously, guys, hopefully y'all are practicing your social distancing and making sure, what's up to you? Making sure that you're, I'm not touching you, don't be touching people that you wouldn't normally be touching. Don't even touch them. They don't like you probably anyway. Anyway, getting back to it. Hope everybody's having a great, like I said, whatever day it is. I don't even know what day it is anymore. But basically just let you guys drive the conversation this evening. Typically, I'll have a monologue kind of sort of put together. I'll start to steer the conversation in some direction. But in this case, not so much, because I've been sitting around basically just staring at, murder shows and, whatever all day long and taking naps. So there's the, I'm doing my part to save the world part of all of this. No, but seriously. So mods for the car, what's coming up for the year 2020? I know that we've been talking about not really doing much with this thing, but it's driving me nuts not doing anything. And there's one thing about this car, and really all Challengers, that absolutely drives me completely nuts. And I almost don't even want to mention this, because once I mention it, it's going to ruin these cars for you. It's an aesthetic thing. So here's the deal. And put your phone or your whatever on mute if you don't want to hear this, because again, I don't want to ruin these cars for you. But here's the thing. Spoiler in 3, 2, 1. Okay, look, these cars, that rear resonator is hideous looking. And if I kick this over, unfortunately, you can't see it. But where the body line is on that car, that resonator hangs down underneath the body line. It breaks it up and it just doesn't look right. I've never liked that about these cars. So I'm going to be doing a rear reso delete on this car. It's actually a modification that I wanted to do a while back, and it has, again, absolutely nothing to do with sound, although a good buddy of mine, Robert, did do a reso delete with his car. I got to ride around in it the other day, and sounds great. No drone, 3-inch pipe with some quad tips. I'm going to be going 3-inch pipe with the stock tips. That's really the only difference here, but main thing is to get the aesthetic that I'm looking for the car. And I'm typically not into visual mods, wheels, tires, maybe, but I typically don't go for a lot of the other visual mods. But in this case, it has been driving me so nuts for so long. And every single time I see one of these things, my eye just gets drug over to it. And I can't have that. So going to get a little bit of noise out of it, going to shed a little bit of weight, which is always good. By the way, speaking of shedding some weight, how many of y'all are getting fat because of this quarantine thing? I've got like the quarantine 15 going. I'm going to get my fat ass back into the gym. Went to the academy the other day, speaking of which, this little sidebar, saying, okay, I need to get some weights. One of the gyms that I go to, if I'm going to be running heavy bag or speed bag or anything that has to do with hand-eye coordination improvements, if you know what I mean. Anyway, everything is sold out. So, you can only do so many push-ups and sit-ups, and, it just gets boring after a while. So, gyms need to open back up. Anyway, getting back to it, that is what's coming up, though. I'm going to be doing that install, hopefully. If the pipes come in, I'm using a pipes kit too to use these stock tips. It's got a ball flange just like the stock setup does. So basically 403 stainless steel. It's got a ball flange on the end. And by the way, if you guys are thinking about doing this, just kind of a word to the wise, the way that the tips go onto that ball flange is, if you can imagine my hand, this is a ball flange coming this way. The tip slips over that ball flange. So it's not like you're going to have a tip going into a 3-inch pipe. It's not like that. It's the ball flange is there and the tip just goes over it. The main difference between the 2 3/4 inch that's on the car, which is already pretty sizable to begin with, and a 3-inch pipe, is that ball flange just isn't as pronounced. It's just, a bit of a flange that thing's going to slip over. So, it's not going to be, flow characteristics aren't going to be any different than stock realistically, but it will sound pretty good. And the one that I did here and get a chance to ride in, Robert's car, it sounded great, no drone. And again, the weight savings, I think that he said that it was like 16 or 18 pounds, somewhere in that neighborhood. So, any weight savings is good. It's not like you're really saving a ton, but again, it's all for that aesthetic. And I'm telling you, it's been driving me nuts ever since I got this car. Actually, ever since I got my white car, Shalandra. So, but let me catch up with you guys. Looks like we got some folks in. TU's first in saying, oh yeah, I like it. What's up, TU? Speed Freak 93's checking in saying, what up, second? I like it. Let's call or a garage chat. I like it. Got the devil horns up. Gibbs saying, I haven't caught you live in a while. Been social distancing wrong for a while. Ready for class. I like it. Yeah, no kidding. Social distancing. I love it. I'm not touching you. To you, Free Joe Exotic. Screw Carol Baskin. No shit, right? SRTA Nate. What's up, brother? Got the arm flex. I like it. What's up, man? Symphonics checking in saying, just got a 6-speed manual 15 Mustang GT. That'll be a fun car. This quarantine gives me a lot of time to practice rowing some gears. Not totally smooth yet, but I don't stall anymore. Hey, listen, that's where you start. And listen, the best advice I can give you is you got to play with it. You got to play with it. Don't think too much about it. Just learn the skill set and always practice and always play. Have fun with it and you'll master it like that. It'll be second nature. But yeah, just as much playtime as you can have with it is the most important thing. Donald Powers checking in saying, hello, Mr. Mason. Good to see you. Good to see you too, my man. Ziggy checking in saying, getting fat. That's me. No shit. Listen, I've been burning through more Cocoa Pebbles and junk food, man. It's been bad. I'm telling you. And normally I'm pretty strict with my diet, or at least I'm straight with my diet. Let's not say strict, but, I'll make decent choices when I do eat for the most part. Damn, dude, I love burgers, dude. What's up with that? Anyway, but I've been messing up, man, dude. Anyway, was actually able to get a little bit of a workout in yesterday, and I'm feeling it already. I'm such a little bitch. All right, so let's see. Dr. Diff checking in. What up, B? What up, Doc? Matthew's saying, just picked up a 2019 5.7, first mod recommendations beside 305s already on the way. I like it. Tune, get the ECU unlocked. Tune, trans tune maybe, but before you do that, because we got warranty to think about. It's a brand new car, and I don't want you to just throw your warranty away. It's very valuable. Look at a pedal commander. It doesn't add any power, but it does add a little bit of fun to the car. I've installed pedal commanders on BMWs, and my own Mercedes had a pedal commander on it. Buddy of mine's Range Rover, I put one on that car. They're just a lot of fun because you can dial in the type of throttle response that you want. And if you're in more of an aggressive mood, you can ramp it up. If you're more in a chill mood, back it off. Whatever the case is. Or you can suit it to just what you like. So if you think, oh man, I'd like a little bit more punch out of this thing, you can do that. You get the drill. So that would be a direction I would look into. Aside from that, as far as actual mods, stuff that's not going to really get into the voiding of your warranty area is probably where I would look. So, catback exhaust would be pretty good. Get a little bit more of a rumble out of it, but I wouldn't go too much farther than that at this time. I think you'll be in pretty good shape. Let's see, 2019 5.7, not sure which 5.7 you picked up, but if it's a Challenger, go with a Hellcat airbox and Hellcat air filter. It'll run good. You'll have a lot of fun with that car. Dr. Div saying, what's the subject tonight on this late night chat? Seems like we just talked. Yeah, no kidding, right? I talk about whatever you want to talk about. We can talk about boring stuff. We can talk about, like that COVID we're dealing with right now. You and I just got through chatting about a lot about camshaft and camshaft theory. So, that's on the table too. Whatever you want to chat about, I am good with it. Arnold's checking in, saying he's got some loud injector noise using 10W40. Well, it's recommended to use. Wait, hold on. Got some loud injector noise. Using 0W40 was recommended to use 1040 since I'm off factory specs. Well, keep in mind that your injector noise, I think you might be talking about something else, because the oil and the injector have nothing to do with each other. At least they shouldn't. Let's see. So you're off factory specs. Got a cam full bolt-on 392. Also, thoughts on E85? Well, I've seen a significant gain over 93. Got new injectors and a pump. Well, you shouldn't need a pump for E85 on a 392. So you're good there, but you will need injectors, minimum of 650 cc's. Now, you're talking about you got some loud injector noise. It sounds to me like you might be hearing more valve clatter with 040. That's going to depend on the cam that you're running, the lifters and everything else. I just don't know your entire combination. You can go with 1040. That would be fine. But if you're getting clatter, if at, say, when the car is warmed up, then it's not going to matter. The weight of the oil is still going to be a 40, or it's going to have the viscosity of a 40 weight oil. The only time it's going to be really significantly any different is at startup. It'll be basically water is what those viscosities are based off of. 0 is water, and a 10 is basically not much less viscous than water, or more viscous, I should say, than water. So something to consider there. But as far as your question about E85, we've seen a significant gain. It depends on who's tuning the car, what's the other side of your modification profile. In other words, do you have long tubes? Are you running cats? What the cat back is, things like that. But here's the basic general consensus. E85, you can throw maybe a couple of degrees more timing at the car. It just doesn't really respond to timing the way that you would hope that it would. It's just the Hemis don't really respond to timing that well. So throwing E85 at it, yeah, you can throw a little bit more timing at it. You'll pick up power down low. But as far as power up top, you're really not going to see too much up there. What happens with that is that, and that's with really most cars too, what happens is, number one, you've got to throw 30% more fuel at the thing, which displaces oxygen. And your intake manifold doesn't really flow a ton. I mean, it flows well enough, but your combination just isn't very well suited to E85. Again, pickup torque, absolutely. But on the big end, not so much. Get that tick checked out, by the way. Arnold saying, "Sup, B? What's up, Arnold?" Shawnee's checking in saying, "What up, B? What's everybody? What's everybody? I like it." Got super chat. Shawnee, thank you very much. Oh man, minus 1200 DA today. Dry. Let's bench Big Red to a 999. No, she'd go 999 all night long, dude. For sure. No doubt about that. Thank you very much for the contribution to the cause, my friend. I appreciate that. Let's see. Make sure I'm not passing anybody up. Hope everything's going well with you up there in the Great White North. SRT8 Nate just uploaded my second vlog. Kind of feels weird knowing I do YouTube now. I know, man. It's weird. What's really weird is when you first get started. In fact, what's really weird, so talking about YouTube, every once in a while somebody will say, "What's mine being on YouTube?" It's kind of weird. And what's strange is that, the format that I use is a little bit different. I don't do any editing. It's all very open discussion, kind of an open dialogue. And it's really meant for somebody to basically just turn on in their car if you want to have like a talk show or just white noise going on in the background, with on a topic that might interest you. So, I don't have a whole lot of fancy, flashy stuff going on with my channel, and it's meant to not have that. And the interesting thing is when I put regular videos together, by the way, I'm going to be releasing one tonight. It's a little 5-minute video. But the funny thing is that I can carry a 2-hour-long live chat, no problem. But putting together a 5-minute video can sometimes take 3 days, because I get started and I'm trying to run through the topic and I'll forget something, or, I'll have a bug fly up my nose halfway through, who knows? Anyway, it's funny trying to get through the first, I don't know, sometimes the first 5 minutes of a regular video can drive you nuts. But I've dialed back trying to get things ultra perfect with how polished they are, and try to keep the videos a little bit more conversational the way the live shows are. So anyway, congratulations on that, and much love for you for future success. Let's see, Riff checking in. Yo, my man, what's up, Riff? Matthew Roach, thanks, man. Got the 2 arms up. I like it. How's all be, man? It's going good so far. So far so good. Riff got the arms up. I like it. Thanks again, Shawnee. I appreciate it. Dean Hunter saying, hey, B Mason. Hey, Dean, what's kicking, man? Shawnee's checking in with Riff. Let's see. SRT8, Nate, have you watched Tiger King yet? No, I had seen some things on him. It's been a while back. Anyway, it's nothing really all that new. I just haven't seen the show. I've been a little bit tied up. Actually, I've been real tied up with stuff around here, and the whole telecommuting thing. So I really haven't had a chance to check it out. But I knew of the guy, and he's funny as shit. So yeah, I know exactly, knew who he was. It was pretty good stuff. Let's see, Sean saying, basically saying he was looking forward to track day today for the last 4 months, canceled with ideal conditions. Very salty right now. I bet, we're still able to get away with private track rentals here, but man, you got to paper up like nobody's business. So in the meantime, like I say, I'm just going to be looking at, the one cosmetic mod that I'll be doing to the car, hopefully here in the next week or so, assuming everything ships. And that's, of course, going to be with a Reso delete. And then it's just going to be playing the waiting game, trying to find out when, life can start to maybe begin to get back to normal-ish a little bit. But, we've all got to play our part in this, and, social distancing and all. But I don't know, man. I mean, little Miss Revlon's been doing a pretty decent job of social distancing herself from Vets, Camaros, and Mustangs now for a while. So this is business as usual as far as I'm concerned. People talking about gapping. I put social distancing on people. Let's see. Rip saying Tiger King was crazy. Dude should have not got that much time. I know, it's funny, dude. Dr. say, oh, here you go. Say, no, he won't see much gain on E85, but it will gain. Jarrett's is on E, and and his is too, much cheaper than 93 too. So there's some ups and downs to E85, and I think the biggest complaint that I hear about guys with E85 is just the range that you lose with E85. And you guys got to remember, I drove Racer X's Charger from Houston to Dallas, and I didn't really have any range anxiety with his car. I mean, shoot, I was actually knocking down some pretty decent fuel mileage with that thing, right up until he wanted to get my impressions of how the car ran, and then, basically drained about half the tank in about 3 seconds. But that being said, the main thing is going to be range, and the second thing is going to be quality of E85. And to that point, you've got to be real careful with how you tune on E85. So one of the got some people. So where I live, by the way, where I live is it's kind of epicenter of a lot of motorsports guys. Somebody's out doing donuts somewhere. So you've got guys with bikes, cars, trucks, 4x4 stuff, diesels, you name it. And they're always making test hits out by where I live. So it's fun. You never know what you're going to be serenaded by. I mean, the music of my people is constantly being piped over here. And so it sounded like somebody had a pretty tricked out 4-cylinder doing donuts or doing something out here. It's raining right now, so who knows? He might be stuck in a ditch trying to drag his shit out of there. So who knows? Let's see. Oh, sorry, I got sidetracked. I get squirrel. But no, the range thing, it can be a bit of an issue. But more to that point, though, is the quality of the 85. So what ends up happening is during the winter time, there's more gasoline in E85 than there would normally be during the summer and spring months. And the reason for that is gasoline just has a lower freeze temperature, and it keeps the fuel a bit more stable in colder conditions. and helps the vehicle to start in colder conditions because the 85 doesn't like to light off, but gasoline does vigorously. And so that's why you do that. Well, the problem is that the MEA spec for E85 is a minimum amount of ethanol to be 70%. So you can still have E70 and call it E85. It's one of these within a certain range, nominal differences, seasonal variances for reasons and stuff. So that can affect if you've got a real hot tune in a car on true E85, or even worse, if that vehicle is tuned on Ignite E85, then what's going to happen is if you get a tank of bad, put that in air quotes, if you get a tank of, speaking of bugs flying up my nose, if you get a bad tank of E85, it can create some problems for you. So, but lately that really hasn't been a problem. We have run into that problem before at the shop, but again, if you work at a shop, you see the problems because the problems are brought to you. So for the most part, you typically don't have to worry about that. It's always the bad news that gets around fastest, but those are just some challenges to work around. Sean E's checking in saying, he said his personal best, 0 to 60 today in street trim on the road, 3.5 seconds. That's nice. I need to go to the track before I get a stinking ticket. True that, man. I understand that completely. Ultimate Uncle Stinkford saying, hey, bud, 2009 SRT8 Challenger, correct exhaust diameter 2.5 or 2.75. It's 2.75 on the 2009 SRT8. 2.75. Ripped is saying, I have a 2, I believe anyway. Should be. Yeah, because I don't think it's any different on the SRT8. 5.7's for sure, 2.5. Ripped saying, I have an 09 SRT8 also, and 2.5 is what I've been going into 3. Okay, so it is 2.5 still for the older cars. Very good. Michael Corleone saying, good evening, Professor Mason with the arm flex. I like it. Shawnee saying, SRT8 Nate, what is your channel? I will subscribe. Yeah, chime in on his stuff for sure. Rip saying, me too. Riff just subscribed. I like it. Very cool. Y'all help him out. Crazy SRT8 saying they are ugly and get rid of the stock pipes on my Challenger. I was going to delete the Rezos, but want a larger diameter and went 3-inch racing pipes. They are much lighter and flow way better. Well, I can tell you this. If I can save a little bit of weight, pick up a little bit of ear candy, I'll be okay with that. The Rezos actually, they flow decently enough. I mean, if you actually look into the resonator, there's really nothing to them. My only complaint is that they hang down like that. It's just, it just drives me. And the funny thing is that you can't see it just looking at the car, and there's a certain angle that the car has to be sitting at for it to just glare at you. But man, when it does, it drives me nuts. SRT8 saying, thank you, everybody. Very sweet. Y'all check him out. Oh, wait a minute. Riff checking in with the super chat. Thank you so much, man. Contribution to the cause. Saying, so glad he went back to Mickey Thompson ET Street SS tires. The way I drive, I definitely need them as dailies. You know what, man? They're great tires. The Mickey Thompson and the Nittos are both very good. But, yeah, I like them both. So congrats on that. I can tell you that on the street, the Mickeys are probably going to be the better tire for hooking up. Maybe not for longevity, but certainly for hooking up. Sinister Red Eye checking in saying, good evening. Hope all is well with you. All is well. I got the arm flex. I like it. Yeah, just, practicing my social distancing, wearing masks, wearing gloves. It's kind of weird at first, I'll admit. Don't really like doing that, but if everybody at least tries, everybody at least plays a part, then I think we'll be good. But yeah, so far so good anyway. Again, doing a lot of work from home. That's been the main thing. Hang on. That's been the main the main strategy. So lots of telecommuting, lots of freaking So I don't know if you guys are having to do this, but if you're working from home, you're having meetings, and it's always the tele meetings, which is weird. If you ever get stuck on one, it looks like you're watching everybody sitting on the pot, man. I mean, every once in a while somebody will have it on their desk or it's propped up or something, but typically it's just sitting down and they're down here looking at it. Everybody looks like they're taking a dump. So anyway, that's little things that you notice. Trying to entertain myself right now. Arnold's saying, oh, he was told his normal valve train noise setup is long tubes, no cats, ported manifold, very good. Heads, Hellcat airbox, MMX cam. Hopefully I gained some power with the E85. HPU and Kingwood is his tuner. Yeah, so the thing with the E85, again, you'll pick up a little bit of torque, but don't expect it to really change the world here. I mean, there's going to be a difference, but again, you're going to really notice it down low. But yeah, certainly the long tubes are going to help you with that. If you have a cam, you're going to have long tubes, and it sounds like you got a nice combination. So cheers on that. Let's see. Thank you again, Rip. Appreciate it, brother. Let's see. Arnold saying, can I send video to you somehow if you can give me a better opinion on my injector noise? I have tried doing that before, and it never really turns out very well. More than likely, it is typical valve train noise. It'll have like a sewing machine sound. That more than likely, that's what it is. So if it's an injector, you would certainly know it. If an injector is making noise, that means that there's something wrong with that injector. And it's pretty easy to pinpoint. You can also take a look at the bank, and if one of them is excessively lean, in other words, you're throwing more fuel at it, or rich, it's pulling fuel out of it on a data log, then you'll know pretty quickly where the side is. But or where what side the injector is on that's acting up. But if it's making that kind of a noise, then it's pretty common, pretty easy to find. But definitely have a look at that, because the last thing you want is a failing or a faulty injector on something, especially if it's not spraying enough fuel, or if the spray pattern is more squirt gun than it is aerosol. You want that thing to be aerosoling. Let's see. Riff saying, I'm not moving over to 85 on my Hellcat. I just feel like it's a lot safer for the motor when you add timing. You say it is moving over. So here's the cool thing about E85. E85 is everybody's best friend with boost. The issues that you run into with NA are negated by boost because you're cramming air into that cylinder, as opposed to relying on atmospheric pressure to draw that air charge and air fuel charge in. The blower is sucking in a metered amount of air every time. It's cramming that into the cylinder, and if there's something else in the cylinder like fuel, that's just going to be extra mass in that cylinder, in that combustion chamber. So E85 is fantastic for boost, and if you're throwing a lot of boost at your car, it is absolutely the fuel of choice. Really, for me, I'm not going to be making a switch, mainly because I'm cheap, and I've been able to achieve some goals that I wanted with my car on stock boost, and you really don't need the E85. In fact, E85 on a stock boost car like a Hellcat, you'll see some improvement, but not a ton. But you start throwing upper pulley and lower pulley at these things, then you have to consider E85 mandatory at that point. So just some things to consider along the way. But E85 is awesome. Let's see. SRT8 Nate's hollering out, shout out to Racer X. Absolutely. Let's see. Ripped is asking, am I right about that? I guess you're talking about the E85. Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, to a certain extent, just remember though that the combination is going to be limited by how much timing it will accept naturally. That's, you've got 2 spark plugs that are firing. You've got specific physics that are taking place within the combustion chamber. Engine speed, all of that is going to exhaust, pulse waves, all of that is going to determine camshaft intake, lobe centerline, exhaust. Anyway, there's so much that I'll start getting all like Rain Man over here. But anyway, the main thing to remember is that you're gonna creep up on your timing mark. Be a little bit shy at peak torque. You can be a little bit more aggressive up top, but be a little bit shy at peak torque and you'll be fine. But again, yeah, you can get away with more with the 85, but it's not going to, I'll put it to like this. You don't want to get too overconfident with it, but yeah, you can get more aggressive and the car will be significantly safer on E85 if you have everything built the right way. The right fuel system, right injectors, right fuel trims, you'll be in good shape. All right, so Shawnee's saying, I'm using Nitto 05Rs for daily driving. I will not drive in the rain. They require a bit of burnout to really hook up, but overall I'm pleased. I like the NT05s. They're pretty decent tires, and I had a lot of experience with them on the Demon, and I came away kind of a fan of those tires. So yeah, I'd say run them all the time. But yeah, just your car especially, don't run that thing in the rain. Gibbs saying, I miss the test hits. In-laws live in Tomball right now in 99, and the seeing you here late at night is spectacular. I never bothered trying with those. Yeah, we get a lot of them out here for sure. Callis99 saying, for a 392, which will most affect your miles per gallon? Adding a stroker kit or a supercharger? Stroker kit will. Supercharger really won't have anything to do with your miles per gallon at cruise, like going down the highway, stuff like that. Once the bypass kicks open, your intake manifold is basically just kind of spinning away. It's not really doing anything. It's just like an extra accessory drive that's just whirring along in there, really not doing anything. And to give you an idea, this thing, even with the gear, is knocking down 21, 22 on the highway pretty easily, and that's cruising at like 75 miles an hour. With a 262, it got 1 mile per gallon better. But again, I can, slow my cruise down just a little bit to like 70 and get like 23-ish. So your fuel mileage isn't going to be affected too much by a supercharger until you get into boost. Now, stroker is a different situation because now you have to feed more displacement. So regardless of whether you're in it or not, at any specific RPM, you're going to need a specific amount of fuel to power whatever air you're sucking in. So anyway, bigger engines under all circumstances are going to be a little bit more thirsty, but not by a ton. I mean, you got to keep in mind that to go down the highway only takes about 40 horsepower. So, if you're not in it, you're not going to really be sucking up a lot of gas. That's at a steady state cruise. Now you start tipping into the throttle, you're a little bit rougher with the throttle, maybe not as smooth. Then at that point, yeah, you're going to notice your fuel economy is going to waver more than it would normally. So just word to the wise on that. Let's see. Riff's asking, are the Nitto NT05R tires as good as Mickey Thompson ET Street Rs? I would say that they are. I wouldn't say that they're as good in the rain as an ET Street R, but ET Street Rs really aren't all that awesome. But yeah, I think you'd be in good shape with those tires. Either way you go, just know that you're on a drag radial and they're not that awesome in the rain. I've run the Nitto 555Rs as a daily on several vehicles that I've owned. I ran them on my Lightnings. I've run them on the Vipers. I've run them on the Challenger, the Hellcat. Pretty much everything I think I've ever owned has had Tri-5. I need a sponsorship. Anybody knows anybody over at Nitto? Hook your boy up, will you? Anyway, they're not that awesome in the rain, but I mean, they're not any different than like a summer tire, at least from what I've noticed. And I mean, obviously you're going to adjust your driving. The Vets also had them. Yeah, the Vets had a Tri-5s too. Literally, I put Tri-5s on everything I've ever owned. Tri-5Rs, I should say. Here's the thing. I've had this car and the white car in the rain in the Texas Hill Country, just driving the car, it didn't really feel any different. I mean, obviously, I was cognizant of the fact that it was raining and I wasn't driving like a dumbass. So maybe that's why I didn't notice the difference. But, you know, a lot of people get spooked about drag radials in rain. That's true for some profiles, like an NT05, probably not the best rain tire. But, you know, ET Street SS, not bad. Tri 5, certainly not bad. But just, you know, word to the wise on that. If you're planning on doing any real dailying with your car, the Tri 5 might be the better way to go. Rich saying thumbs up. Oh yeah, give the thumbs up, press the buttons, the like, subscribe, the whatever buttons are down there, do it. Yeah, please do. Crazy SRT8 said, yeah, I thought about a pedal commander from SRT8 as well, but the throttle response is already pretty good from the factory and don't really need it. True. What a lot of guys will do with that is they'll numb it just a little bit. So to give you an example of what I'm talking about, the pedal commander, basically it's just for lack of a better way of putting it, it's more like a speed controller for an electric motor. If you think of it along those lines, it'll snap pretty quick. If you guys are into RC stuff like that, you can tune how the trigger is, the throttle trigger is, and anyway. So your throttle, your stock throttle kind of goes up and then has a little kick at the end. In some cases, it'll be a straight 45-degree angle. The more aggressive program on the pedal commander, instead of looking like this, it'll arc up a little bit. And that arc can be like right through the fat part of the curve is where it'll kind of arc up. So it'll help it to downshift a little bit quicker. Another thing that you can do though is if you put it more in eco mode, it'll have a little bit of a bend at the bottom. That arc curve or the curve of the throttle will have a little bit of a curve at the bottom, and so it makes it a little bit more chill under partial throttle, which makes it nice in traffic. Just damn it, getting around my ass to get to my elbow. Anyway. On my car, on the E63, I used to, if I was in traffic, I would just damn near put it in eco mode. And, but it would be on its lowest setting. And then in traffic, you know, it wouldn't be real jerky. It's barely touch the gas. You give it a little bit more gas and it still really wouldn't go too fast. That's what I liked about it. So really for me, if you've got a daily, it can be a lot of fun because you can numb it a little bit if you're stuck in traffic. Of course, if you want to watt the thing, you can watt it. It'll still go to wide open throttle. It'll just be a little bit more chill. And, you know, when you're stuck in traffic and, you know, you got some chill music going on in the back, you know, it's all about whatever at that point. So let's see. Dr. Div's saying, reason I use VP X85 or Ignite E85. That's right. Fuel consistency. It's extremely important, especially when you're making the kind of power that your truck's making. White Knuckle checking in saying, what's happening, B? Got the thumbs up, got the what's up there. Gonna say, I hope you're staying safe, brother. Absolutely staying safe. Whenever I go out, I do have the mask on. I got my gloves on. Basically look like I'm about to start porting an intake manifold, as a matter of fact, because those are the masks that I'm using and the gloves that I'm wearing. So, yeah, but yeah, just staying safe, you know, trying to, and really for me, the mask, I'm not a carrier, but you know, it's just, you know, for other people that get used to seeing people wearing masks, you know, it's really there more to protect other people than it is for you. That's how these masks work. So again, it's just, you know, doing my part, doing whatever I can to, you know, help be part of a solution to this terrible situation that we're dealing with right now. Dr. Dude saying 2.5 is on Pop's car. That's on the 5.7. Yep. I thought the older ones, I thought they went to the newer exhaust for the older SRT cars. And I guess I was wrong about that. It's been a while since I messed with one of the older SRT cars, at least one that had a, sorry, okay. Fuck. Dr. Div's comment. I love me. Somebody screenshot that. We got I love me too, man. Oh man, that's priceless. Dr. Def, I love my AT streets. Yeah, no, AT Street R's are awesome. That was funny, man. Rip 33 saying it feels so weird here in San Francisco, just like that movie I Am Legend. Ain't nobody out, which is pretty good for driving around. Yeah, I bet parking is pretty nice finally out there. Dude, I tell you what, I miss living in San Francisco, but the one thing that I don't miss was the relative inconvenience of just getting around town and going to see clients and things like that. It made it kind of tough. But anyway, one thing I kind of miss though are the fortune parking spots where you would park your car, get out, and then you would have a fortune that you could read, have like some inspirational thing like the sun will come up at some point, or whatever in front of your car. Anyway, you had like a fortune cookie, but it was your parking spot. I miss those. Those were kind of neat. Let's see. But I miss San Francisco. Dr. Diff is saying, how are you liking the weather we have had lately besides today? It's been amazing. So leading up to today, the weather has been absolutely gorgeous. Great spring weather here in Southeast Texas, with, of course, the rain on the weekend, which in this case, it doesn't really matter because, and it's weird too, because a lot of us, especially if you're telecommuting, none of us really care about what day it is, what time it is. I mean, we're kind of working around the clock and, what day is it? I don't know. It's today day. So, I actually thought today was Sunday at one point. Greg Fitch saying, taking the 17 Hellcat out of storage since October here in Wisconsin for the first drive of the year. We don't talk brakes often. My concern is moisture in the lines from being sitting so long. Any thoughts? No, you'll be perfectly fine with that. I don't think you're going to have to worry too much. These systems are pretty well sealed, so I wouldn't worry a whole lot about that. If you are dealing with a lot of freeze thaw conditions, you might want to, about every 2 years, flush the brake system, but you should be pretty good. You're still... Yeah, you should be fine for that. Again, if you're a little bit tentative about that there is no sin at all in bleeding and flushing every couple of years. But I mean, brother, let me tell you something. Living down here, as humid as it is, you got cars with 300,000 miles on them with the factory brake fluid. So I know it's scary. I think you'll be just fine, man. Let's see. HU37, when it comes to tires, no one talks about M&H Race Masters. They hook up better than the Nitto Tri-5s, and you're not taking your life in your hands in the rain. True, I haven't run M&Hs in a long time. I haven't even looked at M&H, to be honest with you. The one thing I like about the Tri-5s is the sidewall is not so much a wrinkle wall sidewall. And the reason it's really... The Tri-5R is just a stickier version of a Tri-5. And the reason why I like that is because it affords me the opportunity to have a tire that sticks, but that also handles pretty well. Sorry, I got to fix a situation. I got a power cord that's looking like it's about to check out. Hang on just a second. Man, you can't find anything decent anymore. Time out. Hang on. Hang on. Oh, that's the sound of the police. Somebody's busted. I just, M&H's, I really don't even think about them too much because the Tri-5s do well as far as handling goes too. I mean, I'll hit on ramps, off ramps, buzzing around those things pretty hard and don't even think twice with the Tri-5s. Where I have had issue though is with ET Street SSs. They're a little bit softer sidewall, at least it feels like it. And I've had the car get a little bit wallowy on the ET Street SSs. And again, like I said, I don't have any real experience with the M&H tires because if it's not on these, then it's going to be on a set of ET Street Rs. So if they're working out for you, sweet, man, I like it. The type of testing and the type of speeds that I'm running with this car, I feel very confident with the Tri-5Rs. And but I'll take a look at the M&Hs. If there's some things that have changed, I'd love to be made aware of that. And thank you for making me aware of that. I want to check them out. So thank you. Arnold saying, thank you for the good info, B. I like it. Got the arm flex. I dig it. Riff saying, the reason I want to go to E85 is because I've seen what Racer X did and how his car is held up. So let's be very clear about Racer X's car. A lot of that, all of that, has to do with two very important factors. Number one is the tune. That is a Pikes performance tuned car, and it is about as dialed in as you can possibly get for one of those cars. It's very difficult to put into words just how durable that combination is. And again, there's no secrets here. It's 10% lower with a 275 upper. Stock manifolds with a pretty generic catback on the car. So the car screams, runs great, runs mid nines, and has been running mid nines now for a few years. Let me think about this. For over a year, for about a year and a half, 2 years, and probably has 600 passes on it, 800 passes on it. I used to take it to the track all the time. The other thing is that he's got access to really good E85 year round. So, but number one is the tune. Big chunk of that is going to be the tune. And the second is going to be fuel quality, or at least consistent high quality fuel that he's running. So make sure that when you do this, when you decide to venture into this, please make sure that you're dealing with a tuner that speaks fluent Mopar. It's going to be extremely important, because that's what it takes to make one of those cars, as heavy as it is, because got to keep in mind, he's running full weight and running mid nines with that thing. You've got to remember that it's the devil's in the details when it comes to these cars. And Pikes Performance, Alex certainly knows his stuff. Wouldn't recommend anybody else other than Doc Diff to get his hands on the car, but it's the main push here is for you to understand that the fuel quality is equally as important in some cases, because I've had bad cases at E85. A bad case of E85. We were just talking about Chloe. I came down with a bad case of E85. No, I've had bad tanks of E85. In fact, I had one. Y'all love this. I was tuning. Here's the combination. 265 upper, Innovators West lower, long tubes, no cats, factory exhaust, AFE intake, I think. Anyway, doing a kind of a cleanup tune on this car, and was also getting it ready for nitrous, and made the first hit on the car, and the air fuel, what was weird is that the air fuel looked fine initially. And I'm thinking that it still had some of the residual E85 in it, because we had to put E85 in the car, and that's kind of the point here. And as the car was idling, I had gotten out of the car, and I noticed that the car didn't smell like E85. And so we let the car idle for a little bit, and basically I had evacuated the fuel rails, everything that was in the lines, in the pump, and everything else on that first real short hit that I did with it. And sure enough, fuel trim started to change. And what had happened, that we thought had happened anyway, is that the guy that was running the truck accidentally filled the E85 tank with either gasoline, or the E85 just was pissing hot as hell with gasoline, because the car, we had to literally drain the tank and get better E85. So that's happened before. I know Quick Brick has run into a problem with his car on a couple of occasions. Dude's got the worst luck when it comes to stuff like this. Anyway, he had driven down here to take advantage of some decent DA, a really good track day, and had a freaking half tank of shit E85. It was like basically in fact, instead of being E85, it was probably more like E40. I mean, it was just another situation like that. So what can you do? Doctor was saying, anybody want to buy an Enforcer Cam 265 only? So to give you guys an idea, the Dr. Diff's Enforcer cam is pretty strong turbo cam, forced induction cam. And we were talking about making some changes to the cam profile. And so it looks like he's going to be going with the E2, the Enforcer 2. Enforcer squared. That's going to be a fun cam, by the way. Donald Swaller saying, hey, B, first time on. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us tonight, Donald. Saying, got a 392 like you had, same setup. I'm installing Cook's long tubes on it. What is the torque spec on the header bolts? Memory serves me correct. Dr. Diff, you can answer this. What is it, 22? I think it's 22 foot-pounds. Believe the torque spec is 22 foot. It's either 18 or 22. Typically with those, I don't really ever torque them down because it's kind of hard to get a torque wrench in there, but start in the middle, work your way to the outside, and just put a good amount of wrist on them and you'll be in good shape. But the actual spec, I think 22 is coming to mind. I don't know why 22 is coming to mind, but I think that's the number. Gustavo is saying, thanks, B, for the info. You got it. Hey, Shawnee, thank you very much. Oh, wait a minute. We got just popped up a couple of super chat seats. Shawnee, thank you very much for the contribution to the cause, saying ET Racing, Hellcat stuff, Scat Pack stuff, and some other surprises. Give it a look. Everybody see what you think. Thanks. Absolutely, man. Thank you. I like that. Let me make sure I'm not forgetting. Oh, whoa, wait a minute. Greg, thank you very much. Greg Fitch with the $20 contribution to the cause. I appreciate that, my man. Doesn't have a question to go along with it, but thank you very much, my friend. I truly appreciate that. More than you know, man. Thank you so much for supporting us. Let's see. Time out. That just popped up. I got to scroll back over here. But let's see. But thank you all very much again, man. I appreciate that very much. White Knuckles saying, do you think it's better to run a race fuel or E with nitrous? I like them both. Anything's better than pump. So the extra, I'll put it to you like this. I would say anything is better than pump gas, but if it's me, I'm going to want to run it probably on, well, it depends on the race gas. We're talking Q16. It's a different story. But for something I'm taking to the track just every once in a while, I'd run it on E85. Even though it does take up a little bit of volume on the big end, you're pumping a bunch of oxygen into your intake manifold, so I think that would make up for it. So that's what I would do with it. Let's see. Doctor's saying cheap. He makes him let me send you some 127 FICs. Yeah, I know, right? So what he's talking about is just the injector that I would need to run E85 on my car. He's wanting me to switch it over. Oh, man, see, I got to keep it on pump gas, you know, because I'm putting so many hurtings on people on pump gas, man. It makes it more fun for me. Mr. Red Eye saying, you running 17-inch wheels on your drag pack. Did you have to change your end links? I don't know if I had to, but I did. I happened to have the end links that were on my other car. And when I got rid of it, I pulled the end links off, put the end links on this car, on that car, and then put the shorter end links on this one. So it's a set of B Woody end links. And I did run them. I'm not sure if I had to, but I had them, so I put them on the car. Let's see. If you did, goes on to say, if you did and I don't want to mess with it, I can just go with 18-inch for the rear yeah, you can still go with 18s if you don't want to mess with that. There's really nothing to it to swapping them out, but you know, it does add a little bit of an added expense. And look, I like the 18s. Look, and here's the other thing. Grab you set of Bravadas, set of ET Street Rs, 305. What is it? 305, 45, 18, I think is the size. A little bit taller, but man, they're awesome tires. They'll bite, hook up. A lot of guys have gone deep into the nines with that setup, and it's not very expensive, all things considered, of course. Let's see. Doc Dev saying, quick question. The plugs fire at the same time, or are they a 1-2 event? Same time. The same time. It increases the flame front speed on these things. That is what, and then there's a fire I think they also fire on the exhaust side. Let's see. Shawnee's saying, ET Racing on YouTube. Let me know what you guys think. Will do, brother. Thank you. Rift is saying, I changed the end links out before I put the 17s on just to be safe, but I did hear that certain wheels don't need that. It depends on the wheel. That's the big thing. The other side of that, too, is, again, like I say, I had them already, and I decided to throw them on. I'm almost positive that the Dark Stars have to have them, but I don't think it's either the Dark Stars have to have them and the Welds don't, or vice versa. I've just always had them on tap, so it was pretty easy just to swap them out. Let's see. 707 Cats checking in saying, just joined 6106300C SRT8. I like that. That's a fun car. There's actually one for sale not too far from here. It's a black one, and I am itching to get my hands on that thing. HE377 is saying 2018 and later NA Mustang seem to do better with 85. Do you think it's because you can add more timing, or is it because it breathes better? It's because it breathes better. The intake flows like you would not believe on those intakes, or on those Mustangs, and that's part of it. The heads flow extremely well. It's a 4-valve head, so it does what 4-valve heads do best. And because of that, it is not as affected by the displacement of oxygen that the extra fuel has as something like an LS or one of our cars does. So yes, they do very well on E85. I am partially convinced that car was designed around E85, but no, you're right about that. A lot of it has to do with the intake manifold. Some of it has to do with it, and the cylinder heads as well. Let's see. Mopar guy 777 saying 309s or 262 for Hellcat. It all depends on your power level and what you want to do with your car. But if it's my car, like this one, it's got 309s. I firmly believe that this car should have come with 309s from the factory. Now, if you get 309s, I would highly suggest getting a pedal commander. If you're just going to leave the stock tune in the car, get a pedal commander and ramp up your driver command torque. In other words, give it a little bit more of an aggressive pedal. The reason for that is the 262s basically give the car something to push against, or give the blower something to push against. And so it'll feel like it's gotten a little bit soft, believe it or not, with the 309s. The way you fix that is to ramp up driver command torque in the tune, or with a pedal commander, throw a little bit more of an aggressive profile in there. And your tip in will be more aggressive at that point, and it'll make it more linear to your foot than it will be with the 309s and no pedal commander or no driver command torque. Long story short, again, is that you're basically giving it the same pedal profile as the Demon and as the Red Eye with the 309 gears. God, it took me forever to get to that point, didn't it? Rift is saying, good question, Mopar guy. I think it depends on how much power you're running. I'm sure, about the 309 or 262. Now, that being said, the 262 does have its place, though. If you're making a ton of power, 262. Also, if you're doing a ton of highway driving, like if you're taking the car on road trips, the extra fuel economy makes it nice. And there's nothing wrong at all with a 262. The other cool thing about a 262 is if you are taking your car to the drag strip and you have an aftermarket drive shaft, the issues that you would typically run into with an aftermarket drive shaft are a little bit mitigated. In other words, vibration would be mitigated by the 262. Although now that the newer design drive shafts are out, I don't think you're going to have too much of that to worry about. So just, again, something to consider. But, and to add a question that you didn't ask, but what was the difference between 309s and 262s? The other thing is that it will hook better with 262s, but barely, and that's kind of a subjective thing because they don't hook well at all anyway. The big difference at the drag strip, though, is that it will 60 foot better with a 309, and it will most certainly mile an hour better with a 309. Your fifth gear drive at the drag strip with a 309 gear, you're going to pick up at least 1.5 miles or 2 miles per hour at the back half of the track. That's how big of a difference it'll make. Shawnee's saying my ET Street Rs are on 17-inch wheels. I ran a 148 60 foot on a prepared track. My NTO5R Nittos are on 20-inch wheels. I don't use them at the track. Yeah, that's mean, it'll still hook okay, but they won't hook like the 18s do for the Demon. So just know that coming into it. HU37 saying, I found that with the Centrifugal, I lost about 2 miles per gallon in the city. I gained a little on the highway. Overall, hardly any difference. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, there's just not going to be too much of a difference there. But you go stroker motor, it kind of tends to change things, especially when you consider the fact that, oh yeah, getting back to that question. So you go with a stroker, chances are you're going with a more aggressive camshaft. There's other things that are going on in there that are going to affect partial throttle efficiency. Start doing that, then you're going to be affecting gas mileage as well, because you got to be more into the throttle to maintain that, 40 to 50 horsepower, 35 horsepower that it takes to run down the freeway. Just some things to notice. Let's see. Ripped is saying, I have noticed that a centrifugal supercharger does help with fuel overall. On the highway, it probably might. Shawnee's saying, my pedal commander on my Scat Pack was a blast. It's a fun little mod. I've always loved them, and people were dogging them for a while, and I'm going, what in the hell? Why would you dog something like that? They're super neat. They're fun. You can tailor the car to your attitude, and it doesn't really, you can't really void anything with them. So I love pedal commanders. I think they're great. James Hutch is saying, hey, Mason. Hey, James. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you, too. Saying, finally nailed down the power plant decision for the Magnum. Can you say 392 out of a 2012 really Challenger? 6.1 intake, 373 gearing, locking out cam. I like it. I'll tell you what, that's going to be a great combination for you. Yeah, locking out the cam, and obviously you'd be killing the short runner valve on the back end of that too. But yeah, that'll be a fun combination for you. Now I'm looking forward to hearing how it goes. Things gonna always did like that combination. Amarillo is saying, last question before I hit the hay. What problems would I run into running pump E85 versus Ignite tank that will be consistent? Going for full E85 tune versus a flex fuel or a handheld option. So here's the thing. If your tuner is familiar with how to tune E85, the trick really is to try to dumb down the E85 that you tune with and get it around that E70, E75 range, and then tune it on that particular fuel. That'll give you a worst case scenario. Then when you run Ignite or any of a more consistent fuel quality, you'll be in pretty good shape because you've got enough overhead, so to speak, with your tune, because you've tuned it with a little bit of a shaky fuel quality. The thing is that lately I haven't seen any issues with consistency with fuel that went much farther than about an E80, but that's down here. And the tough part is trying to give advice. I have to speak in generalities. And in some cases, the specific issues that you run into are just one-off. I mean, we know about it because we do this so often. I mean, the numbers are just going to finally catch up to you at that point, right? So for the most part, you'll be good on pump. I would say if you're going to tune it on pump, make sure that you get the fuel, fill the tank up from a fuel station that's, that's close to you, that's convenient. But just know that consistency is going to vary no matter where you take that car. So it's not as consistent as gasoline in that respect, but it certainly beats trying to run the thing on pump if you're trying to keep it safe. But word to the wise, always test your E85. That's really the overlying value of the conversation there. Just check it. Let's see. Riff saying, also, if you get a centrifugal supercharger, make sure you get an X version, meaning you get a ProCharger P1X instead of a P1SC. They don't take as much power to run. Let's see. Andrew, any concerns with Corona and E85 blends? No, I don't think so. It's not affecting the mixing. We're just going, huh? James Hutch is saying, any of your expertise on anything else required will be helpful. Thank you, brother. Well, let's see. Let me get back to that. Let's see. On that, the good thing about it is that the engine's going to be out. It's a good opportunity to put a cam in it. don't throw the kitchen sink at the cam. Put something in there that sounds good. Give Dr. Diff a shout. Talk to him about his Joker grind. I think you'll like that one a lot. Let's see. Oh, but Cam, sorry. Lifters, push rods, springs, all of that. There's no such thing, in my opinion, as a no spring required cam, at least for the Hemis, because you got a big heavy valve spinning that thing with any real lack of regard for RPM and mechanical empathy. You're going to certainly have springs in there that'll help to control the valve events. So just something else to consider. H237 say, when Nitto Tri 5s, I found that I could drive the speed limit in the rain. That's also what I had noticed too with mine, is that I didn't really have to worry too much about them. Again, partial throttle transitions can be a bit sketchy, but that's true for any tire in the rain, especially tires as wide as these. And they're saying ethanol fuels are being cut back on content nationwide so the alcohol can be used for hand sanitizers. Oh, very cool. I did not know that. It's news to me. If that's the case, that's fantastic. There are some companies that are changing their business model a little bit to help out with the effort. So I know Tito's Vodka is making hand sanitizer, and Adams Car Polishes and Car Care Products is making hand sanitizer too. So, but I didn't know there was any issue with the mixing on that. That's interesting. Very cool info. Rip is saying, with the pedal commander, or will the pedal commander work well with a 6-speed like it says, like say my 2009 SRT8 6-speed? I feel like they don't work as well on a manual compared to an automatic. Shawnee, there he is, already chimed in saying he had good luck with M&H Race Masters over the years at the track. He also had a pedal commander, and he may chime in on this too. I haven't seen it yet, but no, they work great. I mean, it's the same. As a matter of fact, a pedal commander can make manual transmission cars kind of nice, especially in traffic. Again, you can numb it down a little bit and maybe not make it so jumpy. So it just kind of depends on, again, what you're looking for and how you want that throttle to respond to you. But I've had them work great in all applications, actually. We're saying, nice, Greg. Catalyst99 saying, what do you think of the new cinema stick being added to the exterior color palette? I haven't seen one in person. So it's kind of hard to say. The one color that I've seen, and I don't know the name of it. What was the damn name of that color? It's a real pretty blue color that they have out now. Kind of a knockdown, like a suede looking almost color. It's real pretty. There's a wide body down here that's got that setup. It looks really good. There he is. Shawnee saying he put a pedal commander on his 6-speed, and he had a good time with that. Let's see. Riff saying it's crazy driving his Hellcat through San Francisco. Everyone yells out, is that a real one? That's funny. Always yell back at the 6-cylinder and rev it. There you go. Riff saying, so if you have too big of a diameter of exhaust, does it kill low-end torque? No, not necessarily. Okay, so you almost have to define, this is where things kind of get real squirrely, but typically, no, your main thing is velocity. You want to maintain velocity, and you really don't want it. The overlying adage is, yes, it does kill torque, but not like what you would think. And in some cases, it can actually give you more torque. Let's say you had a big block with 2-inch exhaust. If you went to 3-inch, you'd probably pick up some torque. So it's all combination specific. For the most part, nah. You're not really going to notice too much of a drop realistically at wide open throttle. Now at partial throttle, you may notice a slight drop. So I think that's really what more guys are talking about, is that when they're talking about a loss of torque, they're talking about a loss of torque under partial throttle conditions when the demand for airflow isn't that great. At wide open throttle conditions, even at lower speeds, you have a much greater airflow demand. And because of that, you need the extra flow. So that's why It depends on it depends on the scenario, and it depends on the engine displacement. So hopefully that answers the question. Under partial throttle, yeah, you might, and that's why that gets said quite often. Shawnee's saying that he never changed the end links on his 17-inch drag tires. Runs a 10.5-inch 10th anniversary Cobra wheel with 305 45 17s and ET Street. Says it works perfectly. I think the barrel is kind of big on those wheels too, so that might be something to consider. Some wheels you need them, some you don't. And like I say, I always measure and check just to verify. Let's see. Rift's giving Shawnee some shit. Arnold's saying, on top of that last question, where do you see best 85 pumps in Houston? I have tons of gas stations with it around me. The ones that I've seen have been at Sunoco. Those have been the ones that have been the most consistent. But that's just what we've noticed, or at least what we used to use at the shop. Well, we still do, all Sunoco. And those Sunoco pumps are all over the place too. Kroger's sometimes has it, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Kroger? I think it was Kroger. But Sunoco for sure. Shawnee's saying, Pikes Tune, my Hellcat runs very low 10s with stock drivability on 93 octane. Highly recommended. Good place to go, my friend. Riff saying, I'm talking about my Hellcat. Let's see, skipping through all that. Rift is asking, can you let me know exactly what torque management does exactly and what I should have done to my Hellcat to make it better using that? So what torque management does in essence is it's in the tune, what it's going to do is it's going to pull timing at the shift. There's two different areas where torque management will pull timing. One is in the engine tune. The other is in the transmission tune. It kind of depends on some other factors. There's some spark modifiers that come into play here. But basically what it's there to do is to mitigate the amount of torque during a shift. That's one of the things that it does. Some other things that it does is under certain partial throttle, quick tip-in application, you'll have some torque management there. The main thing that people, when they're talking about torque management, though, they're talking about the mitigation of power through a shift. I am not a huge fan of adjusting torque management to the point where it's not pulling timing during a shift. There's other things that torque management does that are, I don't really want to get into because it's not really consequential to the car going down the drag strip. For example, I can tell you that my car has got most of its torque management still in play, like in full play. So, and it's running, in 0 DA 1020s on the drag pack. And so don't worry so much about torque management being a problem or being something that slows the car down. In fact, when I've done testing with torque management, the difference between having all of the torque management completely shut off and having all of the torque management fully on in full stock form was only 0.5 tenth. And that's really starting to kind of split hairs at that point. So I have, and that's an average, by the way. The quickest run was with the torque management on. And what it is when you kill the torque, it helps the transmission to shift gears a little bit more smoothly and a little bit quicker. At least that's what we found. So I don't really like killing it too much because it's there to help protect transmission parts, and it's also there to help performance a little bit. I think it'll be in good shape leaving it on. And we leave them on in all the cars that are tuned over there. So Kevin Collins saying, hey, Mason, I'm thinking about getting my first what is that for something for his next car? Any real differences from 1114? Oh, Mopar. Oh, thinking about getting my first something for your next new car. Difference from the 11 to 14 cars and the 15 plus cars. Talking about Mopars, the 11 to 14 cars versus the 15 plus cars is kind of hard to, there's so many differences, but mainly the update cars are the 15 plus. It's got the updated interior. and the 8-speed automatic. Those are the two things to remember that if you need to remember anything about the differences. Power for the 392 really isn't any different. The only real difference there being that the pre-15 cars had hydraulic power steering, just traditional power steering, whereas the newer ones have electric power steering. The difference in power is about 15 horsepower. It's more to do with a tuning difference between the two, but the engines are the same. And that's really about it. That obviously there's a significant price difference. So if the update interior is not something that you really care about, then you can get a performance bargain there. But the big difference here, the 8-speed automatic, significant difference in performance with the Nag 1. It's just the way that it is. So, but that's your difference, basically, in a nutshell. Shawnee's saying that his 309 gear was nice, sweet little upgrade for his Hellcat at about 730 horsepower at the wheels. Yes, it is. Love the 309 gear. James Hutch saying, what is a better product, Pedal Commander or Sprint Booster? Pedal Commander would be what I would go with, just because I'm familiar with it. Not so familiar with anything else, so I can't really speak on it. But I like Pedal Commanders. They work great. Mopar Guy Tries 7 saying, thanks, appreciate the info, brother, on 309 versus 262. Stay safe. You do as well. Keep healthy. Riff saying, would you say that putting a 6.1 intake on a 392 is a good idea, and for what reason, if so? I like it because it looks cool. The other thing that I like about it is if you're going to run boost, I think it's a better intake for boost. But all in all, I just like it because it kind of makes it a little bit more simplified. I think that you get a little bit better hit on the mid-range with that intake than you do on the normal 6.4. Although, truth be told, I mean, you're going to be losing a little bit of tip-in torque down low, and you're going to be losing a little bit of power up top. But, man, you just can't beat the look of that intake, and I just really like it. So, and here's the other thing. With a cam, that intake on a normal, like a 6.1 with long tubes, you're not that far away from being at the same power that the 6.4s are with cams. So it's not that big of a detriment in terms of making power. The only other issue is they do get hot. So, but no, I like it because it looks good. That's the only reason why. Also when it comes to the 392, do you think that the IMRC lockout is a good idea? Not sure what you're getting at with an IMRC lockout. The only lockouts like that I'm familiar with would be for intake manifold valves. But no, you wouldn't ever want to lock out the intake, the short runner valve on a 392. You've got to have it to make power on the big end. Without it, that intake is designed to make torque, and if you don't have the short runner, it will start to nose over at about 5,000 RPM quickly. Let's see. Shawnee is saying, James, Pedal Commander is a fun mod. I actually run it on my Held Swaller. Saying, can you tell me the difference between CDO1 and CDO2 cams? Are you talking about my cam grinds, the CDO1 and CDO2? There's a pretty significant difference between those cams. The CDO2 is a cam that I had come up with specifically to meet a specification for a customer. CDO1 is my own personal cam grind. So I'm not going to get too much into the specifications of those cams because those are proprietary, but I can tell you that the CDO1 is, when I came up with that cam grind, it was specifically for my car. And if I put it to you like this, if you didn't know that the car has a cam in it, you won't know from the idle. When it's tuned right, it just sits there and goes wah, 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 wah. It is a nasty little cam that makes power everywhere. If you're thinking about it, I say go for it. But not the CDO2. The CDO2 would require I would say it would say this. It would probably require a torque converter. Maybe not though. 15 and up car, it won't require a converter, I don't think, but it does lose a little bit of power down low. To get power up top, it'll make more peak power than a CDO1, but it would not be my first recommendation. Might be okay for a manual transmission car. Xcash is saying, is there a way to get rid of the skip shift on the Scat Pack 6-speed? Yes, it's in the tune, I believe. Let's see. Or you can also get the adapters on those too, or the interrupters for those. Ripped is asking, he's asking if the pedal commander makes a huge difference on the Hellcat. I'm guessing. Sinister Red Eye saying, would you recommend, I'm here in Arizona and all I have is 91 on a completely stock tune, would you recommend adding some race gas and then take to the track to be safe? Yes. The answer to that is absolutely yes if you're on 91. And if you've got a red eye, it's double yes. Recommend running about 3 gallons of Sunoco 260 GT minimum. Jason saying, hey, I'm not too smart on the catless mid pipes, but I just found out that you can remove the cats without a tune, without codes, with those blocker thingies. Yeah, so you kind of can. Some cars are a bit more sensitive to those. If you, there's a couple of different simulators, or rear cat simulators, whatever. I'm going to caution you though, first on removing your catalytic converters. We have found that at least with these cars, they actually slow down a little bit when you pull the cats off of them, especially with no tune. So if you still have all of your cat overtemp in play and you don't have catalytic converters, then you're kind of missing the boat. Plus, having the cats on there helps to build, I think, a little bit of cylinder pressure because, like I say, it slowed down by about 0.5 when we pulled the cats off of them. My car's always had factory cats on it. James Hodge saying, appreciate the assistance. I'll reach out to Dr. Diff about the cam. Forgot to mention using stabilizers and collars from Stanky and a bit of nitrous. Oh, you're going to love that cam then. And yes, Stanky tie bars and collars are one of my favorite little mods to do to these Hemis. I suggest them for everybody. Crazy SRT8 saying, a lot of guys are using lowering springs on their Challengers and would like to drop my SRT8 a little, but would rather go with coilovers and wanted your opinion. Also, what brand do you suggest if so? I don't want to really get into which brands of coilovers I would recommend because I don't really have a lot of experience with coilovers. As far as adjusting the suspensions on these things, again, not a whole lot. If it didn't have anything to do with drag racing, I didn't really touch the suspension. Obviously, Carlisle has the Demon springs. I believe that I'd have to do a little bit of research on the coilovers. I know that HHP has got some setups that they go with, or they can get you lined out with. Not really a big fit. My thing is this: the issue that I've run into with cars that were lowered, and I didn't get into how they lowered them. I just, again, not really my cup of tea, to be honest with you. The main thing is however you do lower your car, you have got to get it aligned when you get done. So I would suggest wholeheartedly doing your research on that, because again, I don't have a whole lot of experience with it. Kind of shied away from some of that, as a matter of fact. Mainly because a lot of what I had seen wasn't all that high quality. So I'll just kind of throw that out there and leave it at that. But either way, make sure you get the thing realigned when you get done with it. Very important. And there's nothing wrong with the lowering springs, by the way. Coilover really isn't going to get you for what you'll be doing with the car, other than some adjustability. Isn't going to get you a whole lot different in terms of performance on these cars. Frostbite is a new blue color name. I like it. That's what it is. Rift is saying that the BC coilovers work well. Very nice. I haven't checked it out yet. Oh, James Hodge saying with the $10. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, my friend. Thank you very much for the contribution to the cause. Yeah, if Frostbite, I didn't have a question to go along with it, but thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Let's see. Cersei, I hope I'm saying this right. Ceresa, am I saying that right? Your thoughts on 392 cam and the 5.7? It's a nice place to start. They're cheaper. I wouldn't use it as my first choice, but if you're on a budget, they certainly work well. Picks up a little bit of power along the way, and again, they don't break the bank. So, what can I say? I've seen some guys have some decent results with them. If you're going to have the car apart, I wouldn't go back in with a factory part. I'd go back in with something that is going to work. And so the thing is that the factory 392 is a pretty good cam. The problem with it, though, is that it's got a real wide lobe separation angle. And what that does is it pushes your power way to the right on a dyno graph. My thoughts on that are, I would want to take advantage and play to the strengths of that intake manifold that is on the car already. Have something with a tight lobe separation where it makes a bunch of mid-range power, and have something that's a lot snappier than a stock 392 cam. That's just my 2 cents. And again, James, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Shawnee's saying, there are many settings on the pedal commander. On a hot day, I turn it up and the Hellcat still feels lively. Very nice. Shawnee's saying, S-Cash, there is a skip shift eliminator for the 6-speed Challenger. Not very expensive and well worth it and easy to put in. That's going to be the deal that goes in line. It basically plugs in line with the stock harness. Racer X checking in and saying, what's going on, buddy? Hope you're doing well. Got the fist bump. I like it. Rip is saying, I've noticed that on my 2015 Hellcat, when I go to navigation and have the map on, it's very slow to respond to me moving the map around. Is that just me, or does everyone have that with their car? I've got that a little bit with mine too. Charlie is asking a good question. Get this kind of question a lot too. Hey, do you think it's worth buying a Scat Pack that has already been pro charged? If you know the car and you know the tuner and you know the history of the car and you know basically everything about that car, then it is not a big deal. If you don't, then no, don't buy it. Hold that thought, guys. I got to get a cable real quick. This one's about to freak out. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back. I don't know what it is about these cables. I've now gone through about 5 of these things in the last 2 months. Hang on. Every time, man. Think it's working and it doesn't. Oh my goodness. Hang on. All right. Back in business. Driving me nuts. All right, here we go. But again, if only if you know that car, you've got to be able to say that you have seen that car through its entirety of build and tune and ownership. And if you don't, man, it's just not worth it. Usually when somebody's selling something like that, they're just trying to get rid of a headache, man. I'm sorry. I hate to say it like that, but that's typically the case. And man, I mean, Craigslist is littered with a bunch of guys, lots of guys' money that they've spent for a headache. So it's a real expensive headache, to say the least. So anyway, that's the advice on that. Real miscellaneous continent saying, hey, Mr. Mason, what's up, Real? Symphonic saying, like I said, I got GT PP1 pack with 373. The stock GTs have 331 gears. Can you explain the difference? Let's see. So hold on. What's the question? I got a stock GT PP1 pack with 373. Stock GTs have three. Oh, so the Performance One cars, all the the Performance Pack cars have the 373 gears. Stock ones have the 331s. And what I've noticed, if you're asking, can I explain the difference? What I've noticed with them is that that car has no business having 331 gears. It should absolutely have 373s, just based on the driving experience. The fact that those cars don't have a lot of torque down low, they spin to the moon. Yeah, I would say 373 be the way to go. But aside from that, there's other suspension differences. But no, yeah, you want to have the one with the 373 again, unless you're throwing the wood at it with power, and then 331 might be a better way to go. Let's see. Ty Mueller saying, "What's up, Racer X?" Rusty Box saying, "What's going on, man? What's going on, man?" Kevin Collins saying, "Sorry, what I meant to ask in my previous question was, is there any performance difference between the 11 to 14 and 15 plus?" Oh, yes, there is. Well, a lot of it has to do with the transmission. If you're getting a manual, not so much. I mean, nothing you would really notice. But for performance sake, yeah, there is. I mean, that HP 70 8-speed automatic is going to be a significant different performing car than an one. So. James is saying, "Appreciate the knowledge drop regarding the 6-1 intake manifold. Painstakingly polished it myself, having it ported." Oh, yeah, that's what's up, man. Yeah, you're going to love it. I just love the look of the things, man. So, and that's the other thing, man. So it doesn't always have to be about, that final bottom number in terms of making power. A lot of times it's cool just to have something that looks cool, just because for cool's sake, So, yeah, man, I say go for it. I'm stoked for you. Rip is saying, "My car seems to pull to the left and the right when I hit the throttle hard. Is that because it is trying to get traction and the traction control is working, or is that something to do with something else?" More than likely, it has to do with suspension geometry. If you're saying you're hitting it hard, yeah, you're going to have a little bit of fishtail to the car no matter what. But you got to remember that as an independent rear suspension car's suspension compresses, you've got less contact patch because the suspension moves in an arc that is curved. So when the suspension compresses, you have less contact patch. As it starts to pull traction, or if the car alters or moves, you're going to adjust that contact patch because, again, the tires are moving in an arc. So you don't have a consistent contact patch. This is like one of those games. Every time I say contact patch, you have to take a shot. Anyway, contact patch. Anytime that takes place, you're going to have a little bit more variation in contact patch. Means you're going to have a variation in traction, and you can have the car wander around a little bit. But that's the main thing. But again, it's going to move around a lot because you're smoking the tires more than likely, and the rear end's just lit up and it's unstable. So that's the reason for that. Oh, Kevin Collins, thank you very much for the contribution to the cause, man. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Didn't have a question to go with it, but thank you anyway. I appreciate that very much for the support. Let's see. Rick is going on to say it's the rear end that feels like it's pulling to the left and then to the right, back and forth. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be based on just the fact that you're hammering the car hard, and if it's now, let me put it a different way, or let me ask this question: is it hooked up, or is the car spinning the tires when it's doing it, or is it hazing the tires? And in other words, if you map the throttle going down the highway and the car feels like it's got something going on back there, it could be bushings are worn, or it could be signs of another issue. And it would certainly require an inspection at that point just to make sure everything's properly set up. So just some things to think about. But anytime I hear that you hit the throttle and it sounds like it's pulling, typically it's a worn shock on that side. But again, it's just something that you want to get checked out. But I got to know when it's doing it to understand. But if I'm understanding you correctly, that's what you're meaning. Ken McDavid saying, Jason saying, sorry about that, saying B, Thanks be, the cats will stay then until I get a tune. Yeah, you're going to be better off doing that. And like I say, in fact, Ken was checking in. Ken McDavid is checking in saying, removed his cats on his stock red eye, lost a tenth and a half without a tune. I had to put him back on. Like I say, we've noticed that with these cars. They just, they just don't like having no cats on them. So it makes, fast, mean, and clean and green, baby. Keep it rocking. Rip is saying, going by Ken's question, how important is back pressure? It's not really a back pressure thing. For me, with a positive displacement supercharger, this is the theory behind it. When you hit the throttle at any point, you have instant boost. And the idea with this is, if there is a slight restriction, and this is, I don't know how true this is, but the cats are creating a condition that helps to improve cylinder pressure because reasons. I don't want to get too deep into it. I've talked to folks about this before because we're a little bit astonished by it. It's not really a back pressure thing. I think that it's more of a cylinder pressure thing. I just don't know how much back pressure there really is with the stock catalytic converters, because it's not like they're starving for flow with the stock cats. And, when you put the cat delete pipe on there, you would think that it would, free up the flow and the thing would just run better, and it doesn't. So, I've been back and forth with this. I've talked to several guys about this that should know more than I do about it. And they just go, it just runs better with the cats on it. So, I mean, for me, it just seemed like there was you're capturing heat, you're capturing cylinder pressure with the cats on the car, which is helping to increase boost a little bit. I think is more to the point. It's actually an exhaust restriction that has the net effect of possibly increasing boost because there is a inability to evacuate the cylinder properly. So the net effect is a little bit more boost. Think of it, this is going to sound weird, but the only way I could wrap my head around it was, think about a turbocharger. There is going to be a certain amount of back pressure on the hot side of a turbo. It's not free horsepower. A really good ratio would be if you're making 10 pounds of boost at the intake manifold, you've got, say, 12 pounds. You'd like for it to be 1-to-1 or less on the hot side, but you may have 12 pounds or 15 pounds of back pressure, which is never a good thing with a turbo. Think of it kind of like that, except in this case, you're retaining some of that pressure in the cylinder and you're retaining some of the heat. It's increasing cylinder pressure on the compression stroke, and that's the reason why, because of the slight overlap. And you kind of play on that with camshafts a little bit with these types of superchargers. And what you do is you widen the hell out of the lobe separation angle. But anyway, that's the reason why. It's just a residual amount of cylinder pressure helping to increase actual boost, basically, by a slight amount, I'm sure. It's a weird topic because we were trying to figure that out too. We're going, okay, I'll pull the cats off the car. Let's see how much power it makes, and it loses power. It's going, what? So weird stuff goes on with these roots blown cars. Hopefully that answers the question. Kind of a weird explanation, I know. Shawnee's saying, with my power level and my 999 goal, would you recommend Demon Springs for my car? Nah, I don't think you really need them. Plenty of cars going 980, 970, 960 with stock suspension. It may help. One thing about the Demon Springs that I think will help the most is in consistency, and that would be on tracks that are questionable for track prep. Let's see. Rip is saying, I just bought some Demon Springs for my Hellcat. Hopefully he finds out. There's been a lot of anecdotal, I don't know, evidence. There's a lot of chat about the Demon Springs and if they'll pick up any ET. At a certain level, I think that they help. And if nothing else, the cars look great at launch with the Demon Springs when they squat down and launch like that. So let's see. James saying, most welcome, brother. Appreciate it, man. Thank you again for the contribution. I appreciate that, bud. Rip is saying, when I bought my Hellcat used, which was 2015 Hellcat with 8,000 miles, I made sure that I met the person who owned it before. Good idea. If you can do it, man, definitely a good idea. I can tell you that I never met the guy that owned my car before me, but I mean, this thing was a garage queen at its finest, and I still to this day don't think that the trunk was ever opened. Let's see. Ty Mueller, supporting mods for a supercharger. Well, quite a bit. I mean, depends on how deep you want to go with this, but let's start at the front. I mean, obviously, it's going to come with its own intake setup, so there's nothing really to get there. But what would help the car make the most power? Well, certainly an exhaust system that helps to free things up a little bit. So long tube headers, depends on the car. So, catback, if the car doesn't have a very good catback, like a 5.7, I would say that cooling mods would come into play here. So 170 or 180 thermostat. Obviously, in the tune, you're going to want to kick the fans down. So you're going to want to have them come on early. It just depends. I mean, there's, supporting mods. Now we start getting into, what type of supercharger is it? What kind of transmission? What kind of car? So you may be looking at potentially a drive shaft at that point. U-joints for sure. If you're running a car with U-joints, you're going to need to look at those because they're going to be getting hit a lot harder. You've got, at that point, possible transmission upgrade, question mark on that. So there's a lot that comes with, talking about supporting mods for a supercharger. What I've always said, build the car from the ground up and from the back to the front. Don't try to, just throw a bunch of power at something, get it out there. I mean, that's the sexy part, right? Is the fun part is the power, but you got to remember, you got to build the whole car around the power that you're building. So, tires are going to come into play here as well. Brakes, it depends on what you're doing with the car. So just keep all of those things in mind. Rip's saying, oh yeah, he was an older guy, and after meeting him, noticed that he was not the kind of person to do shows or anything like that. Sideshows. Yeah, that's good, man. That's for sure. Same with this car, man. I'm telling you, whoever owned this car before I did, that I don't think the trunk had ever been opened. The thing just sat in his garage. He took it out every once in a while for a joyride, and that was about it. Scatspeed saying, I bought 1320 OEM wheels with stock drag radials. I really was impressed by my 0 to 60. I managed to get a 3.8, and I'm happy with the improvement. What do you think about the Nexen drag radials? So far, man, they've been pretty decent. They're not going to be on par with, I say this. I don't think that they're on par with the Mickey Thompson ET Street SSs. They're probably on par though with the Tri-5s, if I'm being honest. So, somewhere in that range. Good tires, and the people that have been running them don't have any complaints. So, I'd say that's about as good of a report as you can get. See, Shawnee's saying, Riff, keep me updated on the Hellcat Springs. He's saying he will. James saying, okay, everyone start singing the Welcome Back Cotter theme song. Mason is back from the cable change. Yep, yeah, I'm back. I'm telling you, man, I'm going through charging cables left and right. I don't know what the deal is with that. Riff's got the arm pump. I like it. Ty saying, can you mod a car and keep the reliability? Yes, you can, but it depends on the level of modification that you do to the vehicle. So, we're talking minor modifications like a cold air intake, maybe a catback exhaust, things like that. Things that don't really affect the engine directly. the transmission directly, then yeah, you're not going to have any reliability concerns after that. Now, once you start going into supercharger, nitrous oxide, drag racing setups, or if it's a truck, lift kits, big wheels, big tires, stuff like that, yeah, you can start to affect the reliability pretty quickly at that point. So keep it super mild, won't have any change in reliability. Start throwing the kitchen sink at it and you will be certainly running into reliability issues, no doubt about it. Rip is saying, I would think the more you mod it, the less reliable it can be. It will certainly be doing that. Go74 checking in, saying, checking in, how's isolation? It sucks. I hate it. But we're going to get there. We'll all get there. Rift is saying, to answer your question, even when it hooked, it does not lose traction. It still feels like it's pulling to the left and then to the right. So what I would take a look at, it sounds to me like you've got either a bushing issue or you've got a shock issue. But the problem, it sounds to me, is if you can imagine this being your rear A-arm and they're flexing this way, it almost sounds like you've got some deflection going on in your rear suspension. So I would take a look at that. If everything checks out to be fine, you may throw a set of BMR lower trailing arms on it and see if that helps. But that is what it sounds like to me. It's either bushings potentially being worn out, or you've got some other deflection going on back there. Let's see. Go74, random thought. What did you think of Cash for Clunkers? Cash for Clunkers is one of the biggest travesties to ever hit the United States, aside from COVID-19. Look, there were so many really cool cars that were drugged to Cash for Clunkers. I mean, you had cool old Camaros, you had cool Mustangs, some other Mopars. You had one of the big ones that was drugged down there that really bummed me out were the V8 Explorers, the ones with the GT40 heads and intake. I mean, you had a lot of those get roached. You had a lot of neat cars got drugged down. And for what? I mean, it was so stupid. A bunch of neat cars that enthusiasts would have loved to get their hands on, people took down there to get a credit for. You know, these are the same assholes, by the way. This is what pisses me off, man. People piss me off. So, you know, if you were to have gone up to them a year before and said, hey, man, would you like to sell that Camaro? They'd be like, no, I'm not going to sell it, man. Get off my yard. But then a year later, oh, Cash for Clunkers? Yeah, I could get a credit for that. Oh, I'll just get rid of the car, and they get rid of it. I tell you something, it drives me nuts when people leave cars in their driveways to sit there and rot. Put the thing on Craigslist and just sell the thing, or do something. Let somebody enjoy it. Let somebody use it for parts. Don't ruin it for everybody. It's just a freaking machine, for crying out loud. But people really do get worked up about this, like me. And but no, seriously, the Cash for Clunkers thing was just it was terrible. A lot of really, here's the worst part about it. Talking about recycling and reusing, you know, the car hobby, car enthusiasts are some of the biggest recyclers that you'll ever meet. And if you've ever spent any more than about 30 minutes of your life in San Francisco, this has never been any more apparent. In fact, the hardcore environmentalists, like people, the hippies and all this other stuff, yeah, well, we got something figured out. The big deal is that, you know, a lot of these folks drive older cars, and a lot of these older cars are older Mustangs, AMCs, Darts are all over the place up there. You see a lot of these older cars, and these people won't get rid of them because if they need a part for them, they just go to a wrecking yard in Sano and, check out some, forum post, or, there might be something in stock that they can go fetch for their car, but there's always parts available for those cars. There's no new energy being produced to make them. And yes, they don't get quite as good a gas mileage, but you don't have to build another car in this case. And so the funny thing is that you would see these cars all over the place up there because they never die. They're reliable. And that's the other thing, is that, you're recycling parts. You're taking something old, freshening it up, keeping it running again. That's really cool to do. And I don't know, man, if anybody did anything with Cash for Clunkers, they're certainly not going to be on this channel. Oh, and the funny thing is now how many years down the road, whatever car that they bought for their cash for clunkers is now just it's probably sitting in a junkyard right now. Freaking piece of shit electric razors that they traded some cool shit in on. I mean, you would see Fox body Mustangs, all kinds of. There were quite a few cars that got that were sold that didn't quite make it through the cash for clunkers thing, but a lot of them did, and God, it just sucks. I hate that. Let's see. Sir Isa is saying, thank you very much. Well, thank you. Rip is saying, has anybody else noticed that when you drive a Hellcat, it feels faster when it's warmer out? I've heard that our Hellcats run cooler on warmer days. I don't know if that's true or not. Not true at all. It's making significantly more power when it's cold outside because of density altitude. HU37 saying, when it comes to 11 to 14 Mustang GTs, 331s are good with power adders. NA cars are way better with the 373s with an automatic. 410s are best with bolt-ons. These 10 speeds do just fine with 331s or 355s. Man, I don't know. I've had, when I drove the 10 speed that I drove, it was a 331 car, and I was begging for anything more aggressive than that. But yeah, 410s would be great. I'd love to. Anything. Well, then again, if you're always at the drag strip, you're always wanting more gear. But yeah, for sure, anything would help. 373, 355, I'll take it. Shawnee is saying, I have a small leak with my diff brace. Have you noticed anything with your diff brace leaking? My Scat Pack and Hellcat both are doing this a little bit. Never noticed anything with mine, as a matter of fact. Keep an eye on it. But no, I haven't noticed any leaks whatsoever, buddy. Rip is saying, hey, Sean, if you want to, you can hit me up. I will let you know how the Demon Springs work. I like it. HU37 saying, what are your ideas when it comes to gears? I have my own. Just want to know your thoughts. I love gears. In fact, it's a bummer that we don't have more options for all of the cars. And in my opinion, okay, so here's the thing, especially for the manual transmission cars, I think that they need to have more aggressive gears. The Hellcat needs to have, I mean, it comes with 370, 392 needs to be what comes in the Hellcats, if not a 410. I think the Mustangs are the same way. For me, it's a cheap and easy way to make something feel faster and to really bump up the driving experience, to make it more fun. So for me, gears, 392 car. The thing that really gets underneath my skin are the fact that the 392s setups do not have a gear that you can work with that will absolutely work flawlessly in that car. And what I mean is, it needs a 331 or a 327 gear, something along those lines. The 309 just isn't enough gear at the drag strip. If you're running a tire, I mean, these things don't hook anyway, so come on. Hook us up with a gear, Mopar. Hook us up with something that's going to work. And because I'm telling you, if you could drag just a little bit more RPM out of that thing on the back half of the track, it'd make all the difference in the world. Let's see, HU37 saying, when it comes to back pressure, overall it isn't good. Right sizing exhaust means good flow and scavenging at the same time. Velocity is important. Exhaust is definitely a science, big time. And the weird thing about exhaust too, though, is that it's extremely dependent on the type of engine that you're talking about. So a positive displacement supercharger, it's fine with having more cylinder pressure. It just means more power is going to be made up to a certain point that it can't scavenge the excess exhaust flow. But in this case, it works out fine with the cats. Serves just enough back pressure, if you want to call it that, to aid in keeping cylinder pressure high. Naturally aspirated cars rely on velocity, but that's a tuned effect. So specific velocity to evacuate the cylinder at a specific RPM based on a target power that you're trying to make. So there's that to consider. And then turbo is a completely different story, because turbo is nothing but a huge exhaust restriction, because that's what a turbocharger is. So it was funny. Well, exhaust flow means this, that, or what? Yeah, In this case, it is a exhaust restriction that you're working with inherently. So yeah, that's going to help build a lot of a whole lot of cylinder pressure, which means a lot more power. So yeah, it's so crazy. You start getting into the fine details of any one certain aspect. It could be intake runner tuning. It could be exhaust primary length tuning. All of this stuff you can get just to the nth degree of nitpicky when it comes to this stuff. It's crazy how it works out. Let's see. Edward's saying, hey, brother, hope you and your family are safe. Any idea who makes a good wide body kit for a 2015 Hellcat? Man, I do not keep up with the wide body stuff. There's only a couple that I'm aware of. By the way, I hope you and your family are staying safe too. Keep safe. Follow all the protocols. Not really familiar with them. I mean, that's, getting a little bit outside of my wheelhouse when it comes to exterior modifications, but really any of the modern stuff is going to be pretty decent. The tooling, the molding is all pretty good from what I've seen anyway. So sorry, I wish I could help you out with that. I just don't have an answer for you, but most of the ones that I've seen have been pretty good. Just remember, when it comes to that kind of stuff, man, you do get what you pay for. So just try not to go super cheap on that. Rip is saying, by the way, I really think you should get a catch can. I've always put them on my car since I supercharged them every time. It's just something that it's in my opinion to help longevity. The thing is that in my opinion, these need a dual catch can, not just a single, because you've got a active side and a passive side to these cars. Active side is going to be the side that is affected by direct engine vacuum all the time. And the passive side is going to be the side that is your intake air track for your PCV air intake that also functions as a vent when you're wide open throttle. Both of those scenarios can introduce the vapors into the inlet tract, which can cause the issue. That's why you need a twin catch can on these cars. If you're not running a twin, you're only getting about half the effect. Now, so far, I haven't really seen any detriment in performance, but I am planning on putting a dual catch can setup on this contraption here, hopefully this year. As long as, we all have jobs in 3 months. Let's see. Ken's saying the Demon has a much longer strut for more travel in the front. I think the Demon springs alone make no ET difference. Softer ride, maybe. What's funny is that I'm not sure about the strut because, when I was stuck with that Demon for 4 weeks, I didn't really check it out. I do know that the springs are significantly softer. And when we've run them, I mean, they look like they've got about the same amount of travel. So I'm not sure about how all the lengths and all of that other stuff work out, but I can tell you this. The funny thing about the Demon springs is that it's almost an overly plush ride. So I will say this about the Demon. If you want something that will go long distances incredibly comfortably, that'll eat up miles and bumps in the road, get you a set of Demon springs. One of the funnier things I even made some joke. I was joking about it. Was I put the Demon in suspension in sport mode, and it felt softer than my SRT did in street mode. It would just wallow around a little bit. I was thinking, damn, it's a boat. I'm going to get seasick in this thing in drag mode. So anyway, like I say, it's cool on the struts. I haven't really checked into putting Demon suspension on my car. The suspension travel only has a certain amount of articulation to it. And this thing comes up to about here when I launch it. In fact, I'm surprised this car didn't pull the front tire off the ground. Anyway, maybe if I had those struts and springs, it would. I mean, it's running the numbers it should, right? But let's see. Kelly Brown, how to recalibrate sensor for auto high beams, blinking red light in rear view mirror. I don't know that you can actually recalibrate it unless you do a capacitive discharge. And what he's talking about is the auto dimming rearview mirror. The way you do a capacitive discharge, why would you need to recalibrate? I guess you got a new rearview mirror, which should auto recalibrate actually. But if you do a capacitive discharge, which is where you disconnect the battery, let it sit for about 30 seconds, and then you're going to turn the lights on and off 3 times, hit the brake pedal 3 times, hit the horn 3 times, make sure there is no residual capacity in a capacitor, and then run everything back in. That should, technically, that will reset the entire system though. So you might, I don't know if you want to do that, it'll reset all adaptives and everything else. But in terms of recalibrating, if you had to put a new rear view mirror or something like that in the car, it should auto recalibrate. In fact, that's one of the things that should auto check and auto recalibrate every time it is powered on after being powered off. Let's see. David's asking, do you know how to clean a traction control sensor in your axles? It doesn't have a traction control sensor. It has an exciter wheel with a Hall effect sensor, and you also have accelerometers, which are positioned around the car that kind of give it its own spatial orientation. Saying his are dirty and setting off the ETC, which is reducing power. That is more than likely not that they're dirty, but that you have a bad Hall effect sensor on one of your exciter wheels. So I would have that checked out. I don't think it's because it's dirty, but it could be. You might have just a bunch of mud back there, and in that case, clean your car. Rift is asking, why does the Hellcat intake temperature always read so high? Does it have something to do with where they put the sensors? Yes, it does. That is not your intake air temperature. That is your manifold temperature sensor. So that is a little bit different positioning of the sensor, and it is done that way because if you're only measuring intake air temperature, it doesn't give a good indication of what in the manifold conditions are like. So that is a manifold air temperature sensor, or manifold temperature sensor. You'll also notice that that temperature will drop pretty quickly. In the tune, there are, interestingly enough, there are modifiers in the tune based on airflow that adjust that temperature down as far as what the computer is reading that number to be, as opposed to what is displayed. Kind of a weird thing that takes place, but there's actually a modifier in the tune that works with that. Let's see. Posner's asking, what are your thoughts on the new Nitto Tri-5R2? Supposedly sidewall is more like the NTO5R. Funny, I was just talking to a buddy of mine right before I got on here about that. Supposedly it's got a little bit better wrinkle wall. It's a little bit more like the NTO5, but I haven't run any on my car. I'm probably not going to get a set for mine though, because again, when I'm driving this thing in street mode, which is with the normal street setup on the car, it's either going to or coming from me acting like an idiot on the street. And I want as much sidewall as I can get with the softest compound, which is why I like the Tri-5s. But they're supposed to be really good tires. Shawnee's saying 99 Explorer 5-liter with a Cobra motor. Wow, that brings back some memories. Yeah, some pretty cool stuff. So we, back in the day, man, God, this is so funny. But we had taken one of those Explorers and put 150 shot on it. Anyway, the thing ran really good for a while, as a matter of fact. Destroyer 1320 saying, thanks for the non-BS content. You rock, brother. Thank you, man. Appreciate the kind words. Rip saying, B. Mason is a man when it comes to answering stuff honestly. Yeah, man, I don't know how else to answer it, but thank you very much. I appreciate it, y'all. And yeah, hit the thumbs up. Rip saying, indeed. James saying, biggest atrocity I saw from the Cash for Clunkers, a childhood friend's turning his dad's 426 Hemi Cuda. If that's true, man, there shouldn't have been anything left of that car to turn in. That, I mean, dude, you turn in a 426 Hemi Cuda that's now worth deep into six figures. Oof, that'd have been tough. Destroyer 1320 saying, do you think a 331 would work without throwing codes on the 1320? The problem is the 331 doesn't exist. You need to have a ZF rear end. Well, let me rephrase that. You could still use a gate track, but you'd have to have a different rear section to your drive shaft, and it turns into a pain in the ass. Although DSS, I think, makes retrofit kits for it. It wouldn't throw any codes at all. As a matter of fact, the car doesn't really care about vehicle speed. It's more interested in output shaft speed. Vehicle speed only comes into play for stability control, and even then, it's only looking for differential between front and rear based on yaw sensor input. And anyway, no, you'd be fine if there was magically a 331 gear that you could just pop into the thing. You'd be great doing that. In fact, I'm shocked that somebody hasn't made that work. I really am, because that would be a game changer for the 392 cars. Shawnee's saying, I pray that's not true. Yeah, same here. Kevin's saying, I currently have a 2014 Challenger RT, and after listening to you, I'm definitely aiming for a 392 car for my 30th birthday in 2021. Very cool. Manual or automatic, I'll flip a coin on it. I'll tell you what. Yeah, Shawnee was going to jump on that pretty quick, saying, Kevin, I bought a brand new 2018 392 six-speed. The fun factor on the street was quite high, a little bit of a difficult quarter-mile car. Yeah, if you're not taking to the drag strip, they're a lot of fun with a manual transmission. If you start taking the car to a drag strip, though, you're going to really wish you'd have bought the automatic. Ask Sean. Yeah, Sean's already checking in. See, I ran a 1220 at 114. If that's fast enough for you, get a six-speed. If not, get an automatic. Destroyer 1320 saying, lost my job this week. All good. Next page of life, I guess. It'll come back around, man. Hopefully this is just a temporary thing, and we can get back on our feet here sooner than later, hopefully. But it's going to take all of us to get through it. Hopefully we can all get through it together safely and securely. But I feel for you, brother. I really do. Crazy SRT8. The question that Edward had on the wide body kit, Mopar is now offering OEM kits for around $200. I thought that the Mopar kit, though, you had to get, there might be modifications to the fender, I think, on that one, the front fender. The rear, I think, was a bolt-on kit, but there might be something slightly different with that one too. I know that they made some changes, but I can't remember all the specifics on it, because the last time I even looked into it was when the guy was talking about what differences, or at least what changes they had made to the Demon to be able to run the wide body setup. Anyway, I know that there's some differences in there. Let's see. Rip is saying, off topic here, but it is 10:30 at night here, and I have not ate today other than drink vodka and orange juice. So I'm going to make some chicken with that newfangled New Wave cooker. Nice. Rip saying, I actually ordered one from those infomercials. I'm getting bad about infomercials too right now. Golly, man. Yeah, everything's starting to look good. Like all of it. If Ron Popeil pops up, man, I'm buying whatever that dude's selling. So it's on. Zephyr R&D's in. What's up? What's up, Press Mason? Got the fist pump saying, you have any experience with a 3.6? I'm curious about what on the table, what is left on the table with the Rubicon. So very little. I mean, aside from, if we're talking about the regular Jeep 3.6, I mean, my wife's got one in her Jeep, and aside from changing oil in that thing and putting a new radiator in it and just about cutting half my finger off, no, not really. I mean, what's left on the table is a supercharger. But aside from that, you're just not going to be able to extract a whole lot out of that engine. My thing on that is tune and gears, and you'll be about as far as you can really take it. It's just, there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of upswing on that particular engine. Although I will say this, my wife's Jeep is the things that it survived at this point is no vehicle should have had to live with what she's put that thing through. So yeah, they're tough little engines. And again, there's just not a lot that I've seen guys do. Most of the time they don't, if they're going to really try to go for any real power, they'll just repower them. They'll go either LS or a Gen 3 Hemi swap. James Hutch is saying, thanks for sharing your knowledge. Great credit to the gearheads. Thank you very much for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. We're saying it's weird, the kind of stuff you do when you're in your house for too long. I understand that completely. Jebediah is asking, what are your thoughts on the new HP 75 transmission? They're all the same. All of the HP variants are more or less the same. The 70, the 75, the 90, the 50 that's in the Supra, they're all basically the same. The only main variant are clutch packs. Basically, how much power can they manage? They're all really good. They all run on the same protocol with the same, in other words, the same tune protocols, basically the same. Like them a lot. As a matter of fact, it's overwhelmingly difficult to do better than the HP series of transmissions, no matter where you find them. You find them in BMWs, Rolls-Royce, trucks, Hellcats, you name it, you're going to find that transmission. So I like them. Listen, they're good. They're good enough. But one thing I will say is, when it comes to the HP 90, I'm not super familiar. There's not enough track record on the HP 75 that I'm aware of. But when it comes to the HP 90, let me just say this. There are cars that are running around making insane power. Brian Sanders is a perfect example of this. Car runs 850s, has an HP 90 in it. That should tell you all you need to know about how robust these transmissions can be. That being said, HP 70, not really quite the same story. So, with as overbuilt as an HP 90 is, the HP 70 is very accurate in its torque handling capabilities. So if the HP 75 is any indication of that, that's good, because we need a little bit extra. And again, oh, by the way, when I say that number is the torque rating, HP 70, 70 is just short for 700, and that 700 refers to the amount of Newton meters of torque that transmission is rated to. To get Newton meters or pound feet to translate to Newton meters, just multiply your your Newton meter by 0.75. It's roughly 3/4. So hopefully that answers that question. Rip is saying, do you think that Dodge will ever go to a hybrid setup? Maybe eventually. Saying, I think that it would really help when it comes to the weight of the cars, unless they are going to fix that. Well, that's just going to do nothing but make it more of a complex scenario. So a hybrid setup is just going to be heavier. Depends on what they do. They could go at e-torque or something like that. That'd be kind of neat. But again, you're just adding battery weight to a vehicle that's already kind of heavy. So I think they'd have to start doing some things a little bit differently. Guys, we are at 2 hours and 13 minutes into this. We're going to have to wrap it up here pretty quickly. I am starting to lose my ability to maintain consciousness. Let's see. We got James hanging out with Sean. Let's see. Go 74 with the 6.4 Hemis. Do they have lifter problems like the 5.7? Yep. I noticed it's mostly the newer 5.7s that have the lifter problems. One of the old timers at the dealership says it's from longer oil changes. So there's a lot of misconceptions with that. We had Pikes had a 6.4 in a SRT Grand Cherokee fail at the shop, just sitting there idling, and the lifter failed, wiped out the camshaft, just sitting there idling in front of the shop one day. It's not longer oil intervals, maybe not quite up to par metallurgy in the roller bearings, the bearings that are in the roller lifters themselves. It's another place you might want to take a look. there were revised lifters, but even those, if the car is just allowed to sit and idle for any real length of time, that seems to be where the problem comes in line. Cars that are run hard or run consistently don't have those problems, at least so much as I could tell. My truck that had the lifter failure was a 2014, and that truck didn't really spend much time idling, and it still had a lifter fail, but that was during the midst of all of the big wave of lifter failures. So hopefully that answers that question. I don't know if there's any one particular cause, but it is definitely kind of a lousy situation too, because you're taking a great engine and giving it a Achilles heel like that. When it goes, man, it wipes out everything. Let's see. Once in City saying, is it okay if I get a V6? It's my first. Well, yeah, sure, you get a V6. There's no reason why you can't get a V6. Lots of guys prefer V6s because they're more economical and they can get the look and the styling without having to pay the fuel penalty. So, or the insurance penalty for that matter. So yeah, I say go for it, man. They'll all do 100 miles an hour. Don't worry about it. I say let it ride. Shawnee's saying, night B Mason. Good night, everybody. Stay safe and enjoy our cars. Cheap gas, at least. Yeah, at least there's that. At any rate, I'm going to be checking out here pretty soon. I'm going to try to get to everybody else. Let's see. Shawnee is checking out. Let's see. Sherrod's asking, good evening, B. What meth setup do you recommend for Hellcats? No E85 in my area. I would go with Snow Performance is what I would go with. Cannot remember the part number, but Snow Performance, and run it on, I think it's the part number that ends in 10, if I remember correctly. The setup is that you want it to be activated by injector duty cycle is what you're looking for. Let's see. Zephyr's saying ZF swapped the world. There are currently 3 aftermarket Jeep companies finishing it for the JK. Ghost is checking out. Jebediah's checking out. So, yeah, HP37, the HP75 is rated 50 foot-pounds of torque higher than the HP70. Yeah, well, hopefully they added a little bit of the magic that the HP90 was blessed with, endowed with, if you will, to that transmission, because it needs it. And if they're not doing it, they need to give it a little bit more capacity. The 392 is dangerously close to the power levels that HP70 is rated for. So, but at any rate, with that, guys, I am going to check out. I hope everybody out there has a fantastic rest of your weekend. Please stay safe. Wear your masks. Wear your gloves. Wear your seat belt. Again, stay healthy, guys. Help to flatten that curve out to nothing, and we'll get through this in no time. Y'all have a great one. Take care. Adios.